chapter tonight. You don't have to look up at the stars. No, 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 no. I know.
Come take a look at my dream world.
Tonight. You don't have to look up at the stars.
Chat, if you wanna come get it, then come for it. I'm so clean, my kick's nice, I'm Chuck Norris. Minute made the beat bounce, had to jump on it. Run for it, run, Gump Forrest Gump like hollow pumps, you gotta jump. No trouble, no double, I got a stun. You don't have to look up at the stars. Make one wish, you're looking at a star. Swag so fresh, you can put it in the jar. And the way I change gear, you can put me in the car. I remember when me and Seif used to sneak in every concert door. Now I got my feet in. Every day is Get Friday, no weekend.
You don't have to look up at the stars.
Welcome back to your favorite live sports show, not named Stuff About Sports. This indeed is hashtag This Just In. And as you can see the big smile, I am joined by the host of Stuff About Sports, none other than Jerm. What is going on, Jerm? I know your Mets lost, and I don't feel for you. But other than that, how are you doing?
I don't feel for those bum ass Mets either. Winning the division, 99% of the league. No Mets fan better hype up this team next year either. All right, not until they win a postseason series. But we're not here for that. We're here for you, man. Thank you for having me. Once again, my triumphant return to hashtag This Just In. I expect all of the diabolical haters that like to talk about me in your comment section to make an appearance so I can have the show within the show. I'm ready for you this time.
I hope you are ready because, as usual, we've got Adam Lewis. And like me, he is a huge, huge Braves fan. So at some point tonight or multiple points, we are going to take shots at Jerm. What's up, Adam?
What's going on, man? Great to be here. Dang, Jerm, I think I just changed the whole perspective of the show. I feel like I knew you were a Mets fan, but now I really know you were a Mets fan. So my prayers are with you. I was pretty shocked as well. But it's great to be here, man. Great show to have a great show. Let's get into it.
Well, we're not here to talk about the Mets because we're not talking about losers right now. We want to talk about the Cowboys. We all thought, me included, when Dak Prescott went down, that was it. But what the hell do I know about football? Because guess what, gentlemen? Those damn Cowboys have rattled off 4 straight wins in a row, including Sunday's extremely dominant performance over the defending Super Bowl champs, who have looked nothing like defending Super Bowl champs. So, Jerm, I'm going to start with you here at 4-1. Are the Dallas Cowboys legit?
No, no. You know why? Because they're I've said it on your show. I've said it on my show. They're the Dallas Cowboys. They're going to cowboy it up at any point. You want to talk about my Mets doing the Mets thing, choke job? That's what the Cowboys have always done our entire lives. 25 years since they've been relevant. And this is supposed to be the year they'll get it done? Based on what? Cooper Rush? Listen, I like the eye test. I get the stats are what the stats are with the Cowboys. The win is the only stat that matters. But Cooper Rush, as a quarterback, isn't really doing much. He's near the bottom of the league in a lot of the statistical categories for quarterback. But that doesn't mean he's not the right guy for the job. You don't always, like, I want to drive a Ferrari too. It's nice to drive around, but I have to make do with this 2005 Ford Explorer. As long as it gets me from A to B, and it works. The Cowboys, because of Cooper Rush, now they're forced to do this, right? Because of him, they're playing the way the Cowboys should be playing. The best running back on their roster is Tony Pollard. They're running the ball. Because they have to run the ball more, they can't run it all the time with Ezekiel Elliott. Now they're opening up the playbook for Tony Pollard. That they do have a true thunder and lightning punch, and they should probably lead more with the lightning because I think Tony Pollard is a better running back than Ezekiel Elliott. But and then of course the defense. Now the defense is great. I'm not going to argue about the defense. This is more about just it's the Cowboys, man. Like we've seen this show before. The Cowboys have always been good the last couple years, and guess what? They're missing when it matters in the playoffs. So no, they're not legit contenders until they actually become legit contenders.
Adam, are you as tough on Dallas as Jerm is, or do you actually think that this is a team that can contend?
I'm definitely tough on Dallas like Jerm is. These guys are absolutely not legit contenders. And I mean, he led perfectly into it. You know, is it going to be the same old song and dance all over again like we've seen with these Cowboys? We've seen it before. These hot little starts against a weak schedule. They'll win over the Giants, and then they'll win over the Commanders, and, you know, they'll win over the Eagles back when those teams weren't, I mean, as strong as they are now, you know, and everybody thinks that these hot starts are going to be it for the Cowboys, and it's absolutely not. You look at the coaching, which is always a concern for me with this team. They're bottom 10 in the league in offensive yards per game, pass yards per game, and points per game, despite the 4-1 record. They're 14th in rush yards per game, so they're kind of running the ball decently. But even if you look down the schedule, I don't see them winning any more than 9 games this year. And that's even with Dak's return. And what's the best win on their schedule? A sketchy 2-3 Cincinnati team? Don't tell me any of the other teams that they played this year were actually worth a damn on their schedule to count as a W. I know they're playing better with less talent, which is very remarkable. Don't get me wrong. I mean, we know all the talent that they lost in the offseason. But look at the schedule. Take a look at what this team is actually putting on paper, putting on film. It's not that impressive to me because of their opponents. So, yeah, I'm doubling down on what Jerm said, and it's in the numbers also.
So who would believe I'd be the guy not to be the Debbie Downer here? I'm not going to say Dallas is legit because, like y'all said, the offense is still problematic. The offensive line isn't what it was 3 years ago. They are, as you said, 14th in rushing. CeeDee Lamb cannot be your number one receiver. Michael Gallup is a nice compliment to have, but I think they're missing one more playmaker. Thankfully, Cooper Rush does not turn over the football. I will say this, though. The offense is not good. But at least with Cooper Rush, right, they're doing what Dak needs to do when he gets back and play complementary football. Because at least if the offense isn't good, guess what really is, though? That damn defense is for real. And to that point, they may not have played anyone of note. But even in their loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and their win against the defending champs, the Dallas Cowboys have yet to give up 20 points in an entire contest this season. And it's not like last year when they were just turning everyone over and you can't sustain a defense that needs to get turnovers. This defense is even better right now, right? And you have playmakers on each level of this defense. I think they have 20 sacks already for the season. DeMarcus Lawrence is for real. Trayvon Diggs with even less interceptions is actually a better corner right now than he was last year. I'm going to buy into some stock, and I think the real litmus test is Sunday against Philadelphia. Then we'll know how good this Dallas Cowboys team really is. But I'm going to say something now, guys, and it is not even a hot take if it sounds like one. At the very worst, Micah Parsons is a top 5 player in this league right now. At the very, very worst. I have not seen a defensive player since Aaron Donald that changes games single-handedly.
So
like
Lawrence Taylor.
I sat down and watched game after game after game this season, right? And if you barely make the mistake of leaving Micah Parsons one-on-one, it is sure he's going to get into your backfield. It is without a shadow of a doubt. And then I watched him run all day yesterday, shift their line to double, to triple, to make sure that everyone is on Micah Parsons and everyone else just feasted. Micah Parsons is a problem. And I don't know how 9 teams or 10 teams passed on him in the draft. Neil will remember when he asked me a couple of years ago who was the best player in this draft, and I told him Micah Parsons. I just didn't know how damn good this kid is going to be, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if there's anything I want to add, right? But right now, Micah Parsons is top 5 in this league, and he may not even be number 5.
I think it's a shame that he's wasting all of that magnificent talent playing for the Dallas Cowboys. That's the only indictment against him. He's playing for the Cowboys, and he's just wasting it, and he'll never get the recognition he'll deserve. As long as he plays for the Dallas Cowboys, he'll never win a Super Bowl ring. He'll just be another guy who played on a great team and never won anything. So hopefully he gets out of there and smartens up. But I do love Micah Parsons. The Dallas defense is legit. Like I said, it's we've all said it. That's not the problem. But again, the Cowboys are somehow going to mess it up at the end of the season, or they're going to have that ridiculous playoff loss. If they even get there. Dak Prescott when he comes back, and the Cooper Rush thing is nice. It's a nice story. If Dak doesn't play against the Eagles, which I don't know why they would want him to, because if he loses that game, it doesn't make him look good. If he wins, it's whatever. It's going to be the way it was going to be if they went out and beat the Lions. But don't let Cooper Rush beat the Eagles now. All right. So I think that's why Dak will play. That threat of Cooper Rush beating the Eagles is exactly why Dak is probably going to play against the Eagles. Dak has played 86 games. Now, his regular season, he's like 56-33 or 53-33. He's played 86 games, only 4 games in the playoffs. He's 1-3. I mean, so that's the answer to this question. No, they're not legit contenders. They have to, just like my Mets. You have to get there, and you have to show me. I know you're a good regular season team. That's all you've shown us for the past 25 years. You're still living off those those Super Bowls you won in the 90s. We know you're a good regular season team. You have to win when it matters, and they just simply haven't done enough of it.
Adam?
Yeah. Totally agree with everything Jerm just said, and I'll even go out and say right now that Micah Parsons will probably be the highest paid linebacker in NFL history when he comes up on a payday in a few years. And I would predict that another team would offer him that deal, and he would take it really without even blinking. So
I don't know
and go ahead.
No, I was going to say that's the other part that nobody's talking about. Dak's cap hit goes up to $30-something million next year, and they're going to lose a bunch of players.
There's one year where Dak makes like 60, I think, on the cap. It's ridiculous, bro. Dak's deal is crazy.
Yep.
So,
but I think the Falcons really should have taken Micah Parsons. Just to throw that in there at the end. I think instead of Kyle Pitts, Micah Parsons was the pick for the Falcons, and it's unfortunate, but that guy is a beast.
So Jerm had allowed me to give the perfect segue, but he couldn't interrupt, because we brought up the Philadelphia game. So, Adam, this time I'll start with you. No, you have a situation, Dallas rattled off 4 straight wins. The Eagles are still the only unbeaten team in the entire NFL.
Right.
Sunday is for bragging rights in the NFC East. Who wins Cowboys-Eagles Sunday night matchup?
It's definitely going to be the Philadelphia Eagles, plain and simple. I mean, this is just the better team. We just read off the numbers. We just talked about what the Cowboys have went through. Now, you take a look at the Eagles' schedule as well, and you definitely can play devil's advocate with that because they haven't necessarily had a lot of top-notch wins on their schedule. And I do think the game against the Cardinals shouldn't have been as close as it was, but either way, they pulled out the W. But, I mean, again, look at what the Eagles are doing. Jalen Hurts is emerging. We've talked about it also, last week and the week before that. Where are the flaws in the Eagles? Some think they're the best team in the league. I do think they are the second best team in the league, and I might have even moved them up first now that they are officially 5-0, and they're rolling. It's no slouch on the Cowboys, but I think this one is a pretty simple pick here. I would take the Eagles by at least 10 points.
Whoa!
Wow.
Definitely.
Jerm, do you feel as confident in Philly as Adam does?
Yeah. I mean, they passed the eye test. So, like, anybody can point at competition, right, and say, oh, they didn't really play anybody. I think you could say that of both teams, but the Eagles are just dominating on both sides of the ball. Like, I don't think anybody would argue that the Eagles' weapons. I'll take Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown and Dallas Goedert over CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup, who's only been playing for 2 games,
100%.
and Dalton Schultz, who's disappeared all of a sudden. Like, the Eagle, and then, Tony Pollard's probably the best player of all the skill players, but in totality, the running backs, but in totality, I think I'll take the Eagles running back by committee over Tony Pollard and then the fat slob remains of Ezekiel Elliott. So and then of course, you have Dak Prescott coming back from an injury if he plays, right? Yeah. The Cowboys will have a better chance if Dak plays versus he doesn't. But then you have Cooper Rush, who, like I said, nice story, but he's a backup versus Jalen Hurts, who outside of my guy, Josh Allen. And please excuse me, I broke the tradition of this just in by interrupting and starting every segment with the Buffalo Bills, best team in the NFL. I don't care about the Eagles' 5-0 record because the Cardinals were like 11-0 last year or 7-0, and they were buns. The Pittsburgh Steelers were like 11-0, and they were buns. So I don't care about undefeated records. I care about the eye test. Nobody is more dominant than the Buffalo Bills. And my first fact about the greatest team in the NFL, guys, is that Jordan Poyer has missed 40% of the Bills games this season, and he still leads the NFL in picks. So that's my Buffalo Bills fact. The Eagles will win because they are more dominant on both sides of the ball.
It's like you came on a disappointment that they expect every segment you need to find a way to weave the Buffalo Bills in. Like,
I will.
So yeah, Adam, you're out for a while. That's a Jerm thing. I'm confident in the Eagles, but not by double digits. I'll take them by 7. Because here's the thing.
That's just another field goal. Come on now, double digits, Justin. Don't be afraid.
I'm going to give them 7.
Come on, bro.
The Eagles are still young, and they haven't proven anything as yet. With a head coach that hasn't won much of anything either. So this is a primetime game with a division opponent. This is not going to be an easy victory. The The reason I'll take the Eagles is twofold. One, as y'all talked about, if there's a skill position group I'm going to take the Eagles. Like, they clearly have more weapons. It's just a better overall football team with very few weaknesses, if they have any at all.
Mm-hmm.
And the second real reason I'll take the Eagles in a close one is that the things that Dallas does well are going to be countered by Philly. In that, if there's a way to stop or slow down Dallas's defense, you want to run right at them. And if there's a team that's going to do that, I think Philadelphia is probably the third best rushing attack in all of football, behind Cleveland and probably Buffalo. Not Buffalo, sorry. No, definitely not Buffalo.
Not definitely. No, not us.
And the New York Giants. So, like, if there is one way to slow down a fearsome pass rush, we know it's to run right at it. And the matchup, I think that's really going to decide this, is Micah Parsons on Lane Johnson. Like, if Lane Johnson does not need help with Micah Parsons, like, the Philadelphia Eagles go away running. If they can continue to run the football and avoid, like, going down early where you're going into obvious passing downs, I think Philadelphia wins this game. And because of their vaunted rushing attack and the myriad of ways in which they run the football, especially with Jalen Hurts, and I think Jalen Hurts can get away from, with his speed and athleticism, he can get away from that front four. I am going to take Philadelphia, and not even a shootout. I'm going to see 24-17. You can write that down, Neil, and come back Sunday or Monday and throw it in my face when Philadelphia wins by 20.
That's right, baby. That's right. See, you just literally said when they win by 20.
Yeah,
it's fine. It's fine. Look, I'm just going to text you like I have the last two Monday Night Football games and just say the team name, and then,
I know. I'll put up my hand to say you were right. But guys, the Cowboys and the Giants, the Cowboys and the Eagles are not the only good teams in the NFC East, at least not by record. Who would have thought the New York Football Giants would be 4-1? Definitely not me and my Green Bay Packers. But who would have thought that these guys are 4-1? Jerm, considering their record, they beat the Packers in London, which probably from right now doesn't mean much of anything. How good are these Giants?
Yeah, week by week, like when you stack up resumes, beating the Packers doesn't feel like much of an accomplishment anymore. I don't know what you guys are going to do, but the New York Giants are a good football team, and it's almost entirely because of coaching. Now, they are. It's not about players. Now, I will say your new GM, your new head coach, are from the Buffalo Bills. And speaking of the Buffalo Bills, Justin, did you know that Josh Allen, the best quarterback in the league by a lot, leads the league in not only passing yards, but also touchdowns? And the reason why that's amazing is that he has sat out 3 full quarters of game action because they have been dominating teams so much that he has sat out 2.5, 4 quarters. I'm rounding up. 2.5 quarters Josh Allen has sat, and yet he is still leading the league in touchdowns and passing yards.
I have an issue with your Buffalo Bills simply because if you're not blowing out teams, you and I have talked about this, Jerm, you found ways to lose one-score games over and over. I think your game against Baltimore is the only one-score game you've won in the last 2 seasons. So we're going to flip this over quick.
Call from Harbaugh.
Yeah. Listen, we played to win the game, man. Listen, all I know is we won. And all it took was an act of God, an act of nature, and perfect architectural engineering by the Miami Dolphins for not providing shade on the visiting court where it was 120 degrees on the field. And the Miami Dolphins pulled off a miraculous win against basically the sum equivalent of Bill's third string defensive line and defensive backs. And he only won by 2. Good.
Jerm, Isaiah McKenzie didn't know how to get out of bounds, bro. Let's call a spade a spade. Well, Isaiah McKenzie didn't know how to get out of bounds.
We were tired. There was some bad coaching and clock mismanagement, but we'll talk about that in a different show. But with the New York Giants, this is all about coaching, right? All we've heard from Daboll, from the Buffalo Bills when Daboll was the offensive coordinator, wow, he's really coached up Josh Allen. Oh, he's putting Josh Allen in ways to succeed. And now that's carrying over as a head coach to Danny Dimes, who everybody was calling Danny Pennies. They were writing him off. Like it was, people weren't people weren't excited about Daniel Jones, the draft pick, and they were writing him off. And every year, now I'm not saying that Daniel Jones is some hidden gem. But there's moments in the games through all the way up his career that I said, I can see it. I can see the talent that's there. Ben McAdoo just wouldn't, they wanted to keep him in the pocket. They didn't want to lose his athleticism. What does he come out and do? He gets 2 rushing touchdowns in one game. Like, he has the legs to do it. And so Brian Daboll deserves a lot of credit. Mike Kafka deserves a lot of credit. Wink Martindale, sorry, deserves a lot of credit for the defensive. Yeah, Winkendale, that's crazy. They're out scheming everybody on both ends of the football. They're first in the NFL in blitz, they're 7th in pressure, and they're 5th in hurry up. Like, I couldn't believe what I was watching. They brought back Saquon Barkley. Like, they should test this guy for. And that is scheming, because the offensive line isn't really all that different than what they had last year. It's just they're being coached up differently. No team is doing more with less than the New York Giants. And Daboll is exactly what he's been advertised from the Buffalo Bills. He's an offensive innovator that is helping this team, and now they're 4-1. And so Daniel Jones, I mean, and he's hurt. He's bleeding from the hand. He's getting hit. His ankle's jacked up. They literally have 0 receivers, and the defense is injured, but they're playing well. So the roster's middle of the pack, and Daniel Jones is middle of the pack-ish, and they're 4-1. That's a credit to coaching. Maybe he's probably a bottom half QB. I don't know. I've seen the talent in Daniel Jones all the way up through this year. I'm just glad that they're winning football games, and he's not the reason why they're losing them.
Yeah, he has 3 touchdown passes this year, Jerm.
Yeah. So yes. Yeah. Okay. Yes. But just like Cooper
But I
Rush,
agree with
right?
the schemes. I 100% agree with the schemes. Like,
Go right ahead, Adam.
Yeah.
Are you a
Yeah.
Are
Go.
you as high on this Giants?
the coaching, 100% agree with that. I'm sorry. I feel like you just
No. Well, what I was saying was, just like Cooper Rush, just because the stats don't back it up, he's doing enough for them to win.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, like,
he's playing his role.
yes, Daniel Jones, he's playing his role. So
Yep.
yes, Daniel Jones only has 3 touchdown passes, but I mean, he ran for 2 touchdowns in one game. When they need him to be the quarterback of that team and sustain drives and score and put them in a position to win, he's been doing that. He isn't along for the ride, is my point.
Yeah.
Are you as high on these Giants as the 4-1 record suggests, or are you not buying it, Adam?
I'm definitely not buying it. And again, a lot of credit to Jerm with what he just said. I preach all the time in the NFL. You know, we've seen teams like, I can't go on to name them, but just to kind of put it around the story, we've seen very talented teams, ton of talent on the team, but if they're not coached well, they can be horrible. Besides Saquon Barkley having them at 2nd in rushing in the NFL, they're 20th in points per game, 23rd in offensive yards per game, and they're 2nd to last in pass yards per game as well. And I know it's about the schemes, and I heard everything that you just said there, Jerm. But if we're talking about them actually being a sound team that's going to contend, we know today's NFL is having a great to elite offense and at least a decent defense to be able to get you through this season. Daniel Jones is their quarterback, so we know absolutely what he's worth. The Panthers, and the Titans. Their average margin of victory is 5 points per game. They are winning so many tight games this year. I'll give it to them. They've got 4 wins, but these are very, very slim victories. Now, oddly enough, I could see this team going on and winning double-digit games, but I don't think they're going to be in it for the long haul. If this NFC East does get crazy, because this is kind of a show where we're talking about every team but the Commanders, if the Cowboys, the Eagles, and the Giants are really about to be out here pushing for this division, who knows what we could see? They could win 10 or 11 games, but still miss the playoffs due to the competition in this division. But no, I'm definitely not high on them. Just like I'm not high on the Cowboys. So it is what it is. Eagles, like Jerm said earlier, pass the eye test. I don't really think in terms of depth, the Giants and the Cowboys really pass the eye test.
So here I am now, and I'm now going to be the Debbie Downer. So first, I agree with Jerm. Brian Daboll is a hell of a coach.
Mm-hmm.
And we sat down to see it. Like, Jerm was being kind. This roster is bottom of the pack in terms of NFL roster. Like, you talk about Saquon Barkley, Kayvon Thibodeau, and that defense, and that's it. There are no playmakers. Danny Dimes is atrocious. Only bad coaches or bad teams make Danny Dimes look good. This is a very stout defense, and Brian Daboll knows he has no playmakers to work with. Saquon Barkley is extremely good. Danny Dimes is good with his feet. So let's run the football and mask or, hide Danny Dimes' inefficiencies. So here comes my Packers rant, guys. I do not know what it is going to take to get Joe Barry fired, but I'm not going to start with Joe Barry this time. Matt LaFleur and Aaron Rodgers have to be out of their goddamn mind. And goddamn is not the word I want to use right now. They have to be out of their goddamn mind. And I knew the issue was going to come because leading into this game, I heard Aaron Rodgers say, it is time to air it out. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? Air out to who? You don't trust these rookie receivers. Your best playmakers are Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. Why on God's earth do you want to air this out more? You made that mistake against Minnesota. The head coach had to come back and say, we need to give Aaron Jones the ball more. You do that, you get 3 straight wins. And all of a sudden now, Aaron Rodgers is talking about airing it out more. In the first half of that game, when we took a commanding 17-3 lead, Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon were almost unstoppable in that game. On top of that, then we mixed in those short passes where we let the receivers do everything after the catch. Guys, Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon had 19 carries combined for 97 yards, which is over 5 yards per carry. Aaron Rodgers threw the ball for 20 more times than they did. Aaron Jones did not touch the ball in the third quarter. That is absolute sabotage. This is a running football team now. Aaron Rodgers and Matt LaFleur need to get it in their head. Your best players are now Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. Put the ball in their hands, and everything has to come off of play action. But the biggest culprit on Sunday, I don't know how many more times I can talk about Joe Barry. The Packers have elite players on every level of this defense. This is not of years prior when this defense is bad. You have up front, you have Kenny Clark, the second best interior defensive lineman in the entire league. You have an elite pass rusher now in Rashawn Gary. You have a lockdown quarterback in Jair Alexander. You have an all-pro middle linebacker in Devondre Campbell. What is going on is no excuse. But I see a defensive coordinator who only knows how to coach 2 high zones the entire way. And gentlemen, how do you defeat a 2 high zone? You run the football. What is the first thing I said that the New York Giants are coming to do? Run the football. Why on God's earth would you sit down in a 2 high safety the entire game when you know the Giants are coming to hand the ball off to Saquon Barkley and do nothing else? What's the scouting report on Daniel Jones? That he has wheels, and you have to put a spy on him and make him do something. You have 2 athletic inside linebackers in Quay Walker and Devondre Campbell. Not one time do you put a spy in on Daniel Jones. And guess what Brian Dable did? He said, oh, that's what you're doing? I am going to rush Daniel Jones 10 times in this game and make you pay. Joe Barry is the most clueless coach I have ever seen in all of football. He is a taxi driver at the helm of a Ferrari. It is madness. Yes, you are a professional driver, but you are not suited to be driving this vehicle. At some point, Matt LaFleur has to wake up and fire this man, because you cannot give 27 points to a team with no wide receivers, like none. You cannot be giving up 27 points to a man, like Adam said, only has 3 touchdown passes the entire way. This is sabotage, gentlemen. The Green Bay Packers are not a playoff team as currently constructed with this coaching staff. And that's the end of my rant.
Heard that.
Congrats. Speaking of third quarters, you said that your team doesn't do well in third quarters. I'll tell you who does do good in third quarters. The Buffalo Bills. Buffalo Bills outscore their opponents in the third quarter, 44-0. 44-0 in the third quarter. So.
You didn't know what was coming, Adam. I knew what was coming, but you have to know. Jerm will find me.
Well, a little bit of side note. So when I was doing, what off season, and I was on Stuff About Sports once or twice, and I think they were on the show once or twice also. That's when the Bills were really gaining traction. Like that's when you were starting to consistently see them in the first, second, third best team in the NFL. And Jerm, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like that was like right when I met you was really the time that the Bills were starting to get their traction. Josh Allen was really, turning into the Josh Allen name that he has now. They had just gotten Diggs, so this team is definitely turned up in the last few years, and it's funny to see now how Jerm is just like Bills this, Bills that. But hey, man, when the Saints were doing their thing a few years ago, you couldn't tell me anything either. So right there with you, bro.
Listen,
I hope
it was
the
hard.
Bills win the Super Bowl. I really hope they do, man.
I do too. Because, I was gonna say the one part you're conveniently forgetting is the weeks and weeks that you and your show and on your shows were hating on the Bills. Every post, Instagram post, they would go out and have these fantastic wins. Yeah, Josh Allen, but he just stiffed armed Aaron Donald. But hey, anybody could do that, I guess. It's just that you would hate on it. I would have to.
I was
a
Bills hater.
Okay.
Yeah.
You didn't grow up watching the Bills lose 4 straight Super Bowls. That's
right. I had to root for Trent Edwards, dog. Like, let me have this. I had to live through that. So
JP Lossman and also, oh my.
Yeah, Chad, man. Kyle Orton years weren't that bad. And then we had the magical Terrell Owens, Ryan Fitzpatrick years that were pretty good. But I know we've suffered. I had to live through the nasty navy blue Buffalo Bills. Like just gross, nasty times.
You can get this. What we can't get though is why the 2 teams that were in the last Super Bowl are both 2 and 3, and by that I mean the Los Angeles and the Cincinnati Bengals. So Adam, like, what the hell is going on in LA and Cincy?
So the Los Angeles, we'll tackle the Rams first, I'm assuming.
No, they both, like, you can take whichever you want, but it's one question: what is going on with the Rams and the Cincinnati Bengals? You can take whichever one you want first.
Yeah, I'll hop on the Rams first. I think it's pretty straightforward with the Cincinnati Rams. So, there's really only Cooper Kupp out there, and I actually have this pulled up, which is really embarrassing. So last game, Cooper Kupp had 7 catches for 125 yards and a touchdown, average of 17.9 yards per catch. Allen Robinson all season has 12 catches for 107 yards and a touchdown. So it's very clear what the LA Rams are going through right now. Speaking of my New Orleans Saints earlier, we all remember those years of when it was only Michael Thomas, and we tried to get a Jared Cook here, we tried to get an Emmanuel Sanders there. And the Rams did do that when they had OBJ. I mean, we hear people on some of these shows saying that, hey, if OBJ might not have went out in the Super Bowl, maybe he was the Super Bowl MVP because he was really putting on a clinic. And you saw Stafford and OBJ start to gel. You can't throw to Cooper Kupp 15, 16, 17, 21, 22 times a game because the NFL is going to catch on to that. So when you don't have wide receiver depth, it's really tough. Clearly, Tutu Atwell is not doing well either. You kind of wish that Deshaun Jackson would have been able to make things happen there, but it is what it is as well. Speaking of catching on, look at Sean McVay. I'm not saying that Sean McVay is a bad coach at all, but I do think he is very elevated more than he should be. And I just think the league is finally starting to catch on to what he is really bringing to the table because it's nothing foreign. We know it's out of the Shanahan schemes. Super Bowl hangover, of course. We've seen this with teams as well. And the O-line is absolutely horrible. They are last in the league in sacks taken with 21. Matthew Stafford's on his back 4 times a game, as much as Matt Ryan. They're not playing well this year. The offense is clearly dragging its toes. And I think with Cincinnati, it's just the fact that they don't have any protection for Joe Burrow. They go out and make this amazing O-line. They're still giving up 19 sacks overall this year. Absolutely horrible. Joe Burrow's on his back 4 times a game. You cannot win football games without being able to protect your quarterback. And frankly, the Rams are not excellent at running the football either. So this is very unfortunate for the 2 Super Bowl contenders of last year. But this is why this NFL season has been actually great to witness. Look how we literally just started off with 3 NFC East teams, and we didn't say NFC least not one time.
Not one time. So this is the reason I really brought Jerm on, because I know Jerm has a hot take. What's going on with LA and Cincy? Because I think you're going to tell me LA is not all that to begin with.
Thank you, Justin, for having me on for this particular question. You want to know what the problem is with the Los Angeles Rams?
Before you go, Neil, as Stephen A. Smith would say, put the camera on that man. Put the camera on that dude. Spotlight on me, because I've jumped on this show and I've had Justin, and shout out to JT and the Don.
And shout out to Peyton Doyle and all these guys that in our little circle of friends. And I've said on my show with much vitriol and hatred from you guys that the LA is just, they're the Cowboys of the West Coast. Now, you want to know what's wrong with the LA Rams? Nothing. Nothing is wrong with the LA Rams, Justin. You know why? Because they have Matt Stafford. That's why. That there is not. They are exactly who they've always been. They're just coming back to earth. These lucky playoff wins, a slipping DB on a Cooper Kupp slant route made them beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers that had them dead to rights. A Jaquarius Tart dropping a sure interception because that's what Matt Stafford is. That's all he is. He's a quarterback who throws interceptions. He had like the second most touchdowns last year because he's a throwing machine. He's a gunslinger, but he also led the league in interceptions. Nothing is wrong with the Rams. This is who they are. If Matt Stafford didn't have the greatest receivers in the game, he would be nobody. He had Megatron, and now he has Cooper Kupp. I told you guys, 12 years in Detroit and 3 playoff appearances. What you're seeing is Matt Stafford, Hall of Very Good, quickly declining into the Hall of Very Mid. He is an outlier. He's a stat compiler. That's all he is. That's all he's ever been. He's barely an above average quarterback who's had literally maybe an average to above average season every year but one. And the only reason that's away is because he has one Super Bowl. He has one lucky outlier Super Bowl. Cam Newton, an entire career, 7-9, gets one MVP, and he's still living off of it. So I don't want to hear anything about. I don't want to hear anything about Matt Stafford. Nothing is wrong with the Rams. Matt Staff fraud, I call him. Staff fraud is who he will always be to me. He has no clue what to do with the football if he doesn't have the best receiver in the league. Adam just said it. If it wasn't for Cooper Kupp, they would be 0-5 or 0-4, or however many games they've played already. That's my take.
Yeah, it's sad. It's really sad.
And on top of that, then, so what about the Cincinnati Bengals?
So, okay. I think people are overreacting a little bit to the Cincinnati Bengals. I think their biggest problem is Zach Taylor. That quick success, year 2 of Zach Taylor, the first year Joe Burrow goes out, right? With the ACL, or I think it was an ACL injury. He comes back. They go on this pretty magical run. But then some things happen to their way, right? They didn't get the Buffalo Bills, who everybody, that game, one of the greatest game we've ever seen. If we could just hold on for 13 seconds, the Cincinnati Bengals would be no more. But this year, yes, Adam said they spent all this money on offensive line. They're still giving up all these sacks. But if you look at their games, 3 of their games are by 3 points or less. It's like, so they're technically still right where they were. That to me speaks to coaching and play calling. Zach Taylor, notoriously conservative. You have Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Joe Burrow. Throw the ball downfield. I don't think they had one attempt over 20 yards in that loss to the Baltimore Ravens, which they had one, by the way. But they refused to utilize their weapons. So, Cincy, I think it's just a little bit of Super Bowl hangover, kind of. But Zach Taylor also not really utilizing his talented players. Joe Mixon's still there last time I checked. So I don't know. I don't know what's up with the play calling down there. I know the offensive line is bad, but I feel like you have the skilled players to kind of overcome that. You definitely have the quarterback to overcome that. And I just think his play calling needs to be better because, it's not like they're the Rams getting their butts kicked all up and down the field. They're losing close games. So they're right there. I just think, 1 or 2 plays we wouldn't be having this conversation about the Cincinnati Bengals.
Like Jerm, I saw this in the Cincinnati Bengals. And Neil probably is tired of hearing me saying this. We, as people who watch NFL, get enamored with quarterbacks, receivers, running backs. And I've said this over and over and over again. Football games are won in the trenches. You are not going to have a piss poor offensive line and win football games. That does not happen. And you're seeing it on both teams. And that's why it eventually combined the question together, because both of these teams have been poor with offensive line play, and you're seeing it. Adam brought up the situation. I think Matt Stafford has been sacked 20 or 21 times. It's because Andrew Whitworth went and retired, and you don't know how huge that left tackle has been in terms of impact on that line. Sean McVay, for a guy who's come out of, and I heard you mention the Kyle Shanahan tree, I always pump the brakes on that and tell people it's not Kyle Shanahan. That's a true innovator. It's his father, Mike Shanahan from the Denver Broncos, who instituted that, basically that zone running scheme. He and Gary Kubiak, and everyone else just stole it from Kyle to Sean McVay, Matt LaFleur, Arthur Smith. But I'm getting off track. The offensive line is bad, so no, they can't go back to running the football, which is the basis of this offense that we've seen all throughout the league. The same thing with the Cincinnati Bengals. Zach Taylor has been trying to run the football with Joe Mixon, but he's averaging less than 3 yards per carry because, again, the offensive line is bad in both spots. And you're not, for all these playmakers that both teams have, is going to get shown up. No, Adam is correct in saying with the Los Angeles Rams, they really kicked on in the back half of the season when they signed a certain OBJ. And when OBJ was able to take defenses or stop defenses from focusing in on Cooper Kupp, then we see how great Cooper Kupp really is. But coaches are not stupid. Know that they know there's only Cooper Kupp, because you did tell me, Jerm, Allen Robinson is overrated, and I'm seeing it now. Everyone is focusing on Cooper Kupp and telling them, show me that you can beat me, and they can't. Same thing now in Cincinnati. They got, and I'm not saying this is not a good football team, but Jamar Chase caught everyone by surprise last year. Let's be honest. Now teams have adjusted and said, we are not going to let Jamar Chase or leave him one-on-one with anyone. So now that they've adjusted to Jamar Chase, left either a safety over the top or straight up double teaming him, the Bengals are like, what do we do now? And these poor coaching and the bad offensive lines have shown up in both situations. And the Cincinnati Bengals situation of being 2-3 does not surprise me as much as the Rams, because I thought Allen Robinson was a lot better than he was. But shout out for Jerm for showing me Allen Robinson really isn't it. And if I'm Elliott, I am doing whatever it takes to get OBJ back in the building, because they can see a situation with this team, they can easily miss the playoffs.
Yep. The way they're playing right now, they are not contenders, playoff contenders, and they will not make the playoffs.
Who else is likely not to make the playoffs, but we all kind of knew this? Well, Carolina Panthers, who today had to fire their head coach, Matt Rhule. So, Jerm, this time I'll start with you. Do you agree with the firing, considering it's only 5 games into the season?
Yeah, but it's not 5 games into the season. It's all last season. It's all everything that's since day one. And I live in North Carolina, so I absorb a lot of Carolina Panthers sports radio and a lot of Carolina fans.
Damn, and you love the Bills that much?
Yeah,
I'm messing with you, bro.
There's like
I'm a Saints fan in Georgia. I can't say anything.
Yeah, at least damn, in the division too, man. Balls.
Yeah, yeah, bro.
So no, he's like, his record is awful. He's a good college coach, and congrats to him. Shout out to him for getting the bag. He's gonna make like $800,000, every week until the season's over, or whatever nonsense deal they made. David Tepper, the Panthers are so dumb. They were paying 4 quarterbacks. 3 of them weren't on the roster. They're going to trade away Christian McCaffrey. I know that there's reports that the Bills were sniffing around. Other teams were sniffing around. They're going to trade DJ Moore. They're going to trade whatever assets they can because they don't have any draft picks because they had to waste them all. They're going to have to blow it up. And I feel bad for Baker Mayfield. And I'm not saying Baker Mayfield is some great hidden gem, but I mean, Alex Smith went through coach after coach after coach after coach until he landed with Andy Reid, and all of a sudden it was, well, Alex Smith, not terrible. Actually, he's pretty damn good. I think Baker needs one of those, and I unfortunately for him, and I know he's banged up and he's continued to be banged up. I think for him, he needs to sit behind somebody for a year. I think that's the Jameis Winston route. Hey, go sit behind Brady. Yeah, I'm seriously. It's worked out for Jameis. Jameis is, he's still.
I wouldn't be mad if I didn't see him for the rest of the year.
Right, but
I still want to give him a chance. I'm right there with you.
But he's better off than he was as Tampa Jameis. He's better. Yeah. He threw for 5,000 yards first season, right? Then he threw for some ridiculous
5,000 yards, 30 touchdowns, 30 interceptions.
The 30 interceptions is not great, right? But it's
30.
But so Baker needs to step back from being in the spotlight, and he needs to learn, because I do think he's talented. Is he draft him over Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson talented? Of course not. But you're not going to sit there and tell me that Geno Smith is better than Baker Mayfield. I don't think if in the right situation,
Right now,
I think Baker.
yeah.
Well, right, because Geno Smith is in a terrific situation. He did what Baker should do. Hey, go sit behind Russell Wilson. Go find a perfect situation. Go sit behind this coaching staff. Sit there for a
Respectable.
year, 2, 3, 4 years, however long it takes. You'll get your
Yeah.
opportunity again. Geno Smith didn't pout. He didn't say anything. He just took his licks. He stopped in LA. He stopped, he made his bones in Seattle. And, they started off pretty hot, and he's coming down to earth a little bit, but he's a competent starting quarterback. That team doesn't have a lot going for it either. So, Baker, I think when they went into it with Matt Rhule, I just kind of nervous about it because he basically went to another Cleveland Browns. Not that great of a head coach and bad offensive line, and I didn't think it was going to work out for Baker, and here we are now today. Matt Rhule is a good college coach. He'll go back to college, and I'm sure he'll turn some program around. He's not an NFL caliber coach. He hasn't been from day one, and this was the right move. It just sucks because the Panthers have just made awful front office move after awful front office move after awful front office move, and now they're going to be awful for years trying to fix what they destroyed or built and then destroyed.
Same thing, Adam. Do you like the firing of Matt Rhule, or would you have given him the rest of the season?
Yeah, absolutely. Not absolutely with the rest of the season. I would not have given him the rest of the season. And I absolutely agree with this firing. I actually called this on my tenure with Petty Sports as we rolled out our NFL coaches on the hot seat. Matt Rhule was one of my ones up there, along with Mike Zimmer as well. He's clearly not in Vikings culture anymore. Matt Rhule was 11-27 with this Panthers team. He never made the offense better. You go look at the numbers from when Ron Rivera had him in 19, in 20, 21, and so far in 22, the Panthers continue to fall down the ladder in every offensive statistical category. And it's unfortunate because they do have a Christian McCaffrey, like we were mentioning with the Panthers, kind of like Micah Parsons with the Cowboys. You wonder if he's going to stay with that team, knowing how much of a weapon he is. Clearly, Mike is in his second year. Christian's been a little injury riddled, but we know the intensity of these players and kind of how they're being wasted on the team in this aspect. It's absolutely unfortunate because there was a lot of hype around Matt Rhule coming out of college, coming out of Baylor, getting the job here in Carolina. But he did have to coach literally 5 quarterbacks in his tenure in a way. Teddy Bridgewater, PJ Walker, Sam Darnold, Cam Newton, and Baker Mayfield. The Panthers are definitely going to blow it up. I could see them trading away a DJ Moore, like you mentioned. I can see them trading away a Christian McCaffrey as well. So I do agree. I called it, and unfortunately, this team wasn't getting any better. And the NFC South is, of course, it's not a great division at the moment, but you do need a good coach in your division whatsoever. So yeah, I definitely agree with this firing here.
No, before I dump on Matt Rhule, I will say it's not like he's had the greatest offensive talent, especially under center, like you called it. You had the means of Cam Newton. I've never, ever liked Baker Mayfield or Sam Darnold. PJ Walker, seriously.
Teddy Bridgewater was probably the best quarterback he had.
Hey, XFL legend PJ Walker. Put some respect on his name.
XFL legend PJ Walker. And if the best quarterback you've had in your time, like, yikes.
Now, they do have Matt Corral, right? They drafted him. So I don't know what that means. Hey, he was hurt. Who knows, right? We don't know. Kenny Pickett came out, and even though they got sloshed by my Buffalo Bills, I liked what I saw from Kenny Pickett. You got to give these guys a chance. Matt Corral may be that guy. Who knows?
If you can't push Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield in training camp, then you have some problems, and I never liked the pick. And also, to Matt Rhule's credit, it's not like he got a healthy Christian McCaffrey at any point in his career. I'll give him that. But like Adam said, you can't run away from your record. Your record is what you are. And you're 11-27. And you came from Baylor with the reputation of being a great offensive mind. Well, let me tell you what this great offensive mind has done in his 38 games in the NFL. Since being a head coach in the NFL, gentlemen, the Panthers has ranked last in total QBR, second last in yards per game and offensive efficiency, and 27th in points per game, all during the Matt Rhule tenure. And we all know during his time at Baylor, this guy was touted as some offensive genius. No, that's not going to cut it. And I do not feel bad in the least for either Matt Rhule or the organization, because this goes back to what I keep saying about a particular type of coach getting coaching jobs that they do not deserve. Like, how I'm against college coaches coming directly to the NFL with zero NFL experience, because in college, you get to basically pick the talent you want. That is not how it works in the NFL. You got to go along to get along in the NFL. It's just a completely different structure. And Jerm is smiling because he knows what I'm about to say. There are particular coaches of a certain hue that continually get overlooked for people with lesser talented resumes or lesser qualified resumes. I do not feel bad for Matt Rhule because he got a job he did not deserve. And I do not feel bad for the owner, David Tepper, because he came in all guns a-blazing, threw out Cam Newton. I mean, probably deserves to throw out Cam Newton. Got rid of Rodgers, and now look at what you have. The two men who have seen the only success your franchise knows since Jake Delhomme, you discarded for what? For arguably the worst team in the NFL since, because at least the Jets and the Jaguars look good right now. What do your and the Panthers look like? Trash. Trash to the point that nobody wants to come to your organization. But you know what else is trash?
And you know what?
Sorry, Adam, go ahead.
Good. No, so I was actually looking a little earlier. What's unfortunate about this Panthers team is, they're going to blow it up, of course. Well, they could / they should. But the interim coach now was the head coach, Steve Wilks, from the 2018, I think, I'm not sure. Arizona Cardinals, who went 3-13. And also the D coordinator is now supposed to step in because they fired the defensive coordinator as well. So this team might just go from horrible to even worse. It's tough in Carolina. So they're recruiting some really, really awful replacements. But apparently there's D'Amico Ryans, there's Leslie Frazier's of the league floating around out there. Jerm, please don't say anything. These guys might be able to take the spot.
But if you think the Carolina Panthers situation was bad, Jen, but you know what's worse? Do y'all have a clue what was worse? The roughing the passer penalty that the Atlanta Falcons had to endure against Tom Brady. So this time I'll start with you, Adam. I don't think it's a question of if this call was bad, but how bad was this call really?
It's absolutely horrible, man. I was just mentioning it the other day with my dad. These are multi-million-dollar athletes, machines on the field, playing their heart out. And not even to be funny, but like you've got guys like Tom Brady out here potentially losing a marriage because he's so committed to the game, and the game is called by these referees. And you talk about Major League Baseball, potentially getting robotic umpires, and it's like, hell, do we need computers calling the game at this point? I mean, how specific do we have to get? There's over 200 angles in every single thing. What the hell is the problem with picking up the flag? What is wrong with congregating? Because they do it all the time. Oh, never mind. There was no intentional grounding. Oh, never mind. There's no foul for pass interference. It's absolutely horrible. And I'm still going to watch the game. I've been saying it. They'd have to sacrifice a baby at midfield for me to stop watching because I love the NFL that much. But these referees are getting absolutely horrible. But, we've seen the comments, oh, you can't sack Tom Brady in the fourth quarter when you're about to spoil a comeback. I don't care if the Falcons got hosed because at the end of the day, they didn't win the damn game. We know that. And here's the thing. Here's why I have no sympathy. Of course, we know Saints fan, no call, ha, ha, ha. But that game really made me understand that you cannot, with the referees in today's game, you cannot be in a position to let the black and white stripes decide your fate. You just can't be. And whether you're Tom Brady, whether you're Drew Brees, whether you're Josh Allen, you cannot be in that position at that point. So the call was horrible. But again, these are the referees. This is what they're doing. It's got to get better, though. It's absolutely got to get better. I'm at this point, like I would take away NFL referee jobs to literally have like robotic umps, refs, whatever it takes on the field. Like these calls need to be precise. I get there's human error, but these are blatant. These are egregious. These are horrible calls. It's got to change.
Jerm, how bad was it?
So I'll tell you it was bad, but Adam opened the door and he mentioned Josh Allen. Did you know that Josh Allen
Neil, help us.
Nah, Neil, listen, put the spotlight on me because Josh Allen has led the Buffalo Bills. That team has a point differential of plus 91. The next best team is at 47. Actually, it's two. There's the Philadelphia Eagles, who are undefeated, and my other team, the other team I defend with all my heart, the San Francisco 49ers and Jimmy Graps, who they're trying to take his job every week. And I'm so glad that Trey Lance tore his knee up, broke his leg or whatever it was, because now Jimmy G can lead them. 49ers season is officially saved. Now, was this the right call or the wrong call? How'd you frame the question? Was this the right call?
No, it asked,
How bad was this?
how bad was this call?
Oh, how bad was this call? Ready for the controversy?
Uh-oh.
It wasn't bad at all. You know why? 10 years ago, I was allowed to use certain verbiage. I was allowed to say certain words. It wasn't frowned upon. I can't say them now. Ask my brothers at the Give Us a Shot Network. I get in trouble via text every week because I say something that I thought was cool because I used to say it 10, 20 years ago, and now I can't say it today. The Miami Dolphins ruined the NFL because they allowed Tua Tagovailoa to get concussions week after week. And what did the NFL do? They said, hey, we got to protect these players because we had Tua Tagovailoa on a merry-go-round walking back to his huddle. We can't have that. So now the rules are changed. Now we have to protect the quarterback. We saw it with Miami again with Teddy Bridgewater, who got slammed to the ground. His head bounced off the ground. And because of the new concussion protocols, they kept him out the rest of the game. Could he have played? Didn't he end up having a concussion? No, he didn't. He was fine. But they are going to protect these players overcorrecting. Was it an overcorrection? Yeah, sure. But the way that the rules and the way the league are protecting players ever since Tua was hit a couple weeks ago in week 3, this is how it's going to be done. Does it suck? Sure. Yes, it sucks. But Jerome Boger, he said, hey, he unnecessarily got slammed to the ground. You can't suplex players anymore. I get that maybe last year that play was okay, but you can't do it this year. You can't do it since week 3. I get the fact that it's a newer rule, it's a newer incentive, a newer thing that the NFL is doing, doesn't matter. This is how they're policing the game right now. So was it a bad call? No. It just was it. Can we morally argue the merits of the call and why it shouldn't be done? Absolutely. To me, that shouldn't have been a flag. But the way the NFL is doing it these days, it is. And the players, unfortunately, just like they had to adjust to not chop blocking, just like they had to adjust to not leading with the helmet. Shout out to Muhammad Massaquoi. Just like they had to adjust, defensive players had to adjust to a lot of things. Hand checking. A lot of these things change over the years, and we're like, oh my God, how could they change it? The NFL will never be the same. Yeah, well, it'll adjust. Yes, you can't twirl the quarterback around 3 times and throw him to the ground anymore. It just hit him. Like, I mean, if you can't get him down for hitting him, it sucks. But in the scope of the roughing the passer call, it wasn't bad. It's just because the Miami Dolphins hijacked and ruined the season.
Stop it, Jerm. I agree with you. Yes, the Miami Dolphins situation with Tua Tagovailoa that they almost got him killed did change the situation. But this call is one of the most egregious I've ever seen, and that includes the no call that Adam had to endure in a certain NFC title game.
With my entire family that is from New Orleans, and we were all rallied around the TV, and I still remember that I said, like, I literally stood up, excited, screaming. I was like, oh my God, yes, we're going to the Super Bowl. And there was no flag. Yeah. That was the first time I experienced depression in my life. Carry on.
And
was that worse than the Stephon Diggs catch?
By a mile, bro. Because it was the year before, dog. That was the year before, and then the year after there really should have been OPI against the same damn team, the Vikings. Like, can we get on with the topic, please? I'm starting to have PTSD. Especially.
I watched, and this is times worse because this immediately decided to play, right? And for all the talk about twirling a quarterback around before throwing him on the ground, had Grady Jarrett decided not to, guess what, Jerm? Tom Brady is still on top of Grady Jackson,
It is Grady, yeah.
Grady Jarrett, sorry. Tom Brady is still on top of Grady Jarrett. And if he does not throw him to the ground, Tom Brady can get up and go. I mean, granted, Tom Brady is not exactly the three of us here. He's a little bit oldie tooth and can't get up and go anywhere, but he's not down. And the whole point of playing tackle football is to put the opposing player on the ground where he's belong, where the referee can blow the play dead. Tom Brady doesn't hit his head. Tom Brady doesn't put Brady Jack not put his entire weight on top of Tom Brady. I do not under the call. He twirls him around like I would like to be twirled around like that. Like it so lovingly. It's like, oh. When I saw the play in real time and I saw the flag throw up, it's all okay. Finally, somebody is throwing the flag at Tom Brady because I'm not sure if y'all saw Tom Brady kicked at Grady Jarrett for the situation. I'm like, oh, we finally got Tom. Then it said roughing the pass. I'm like, what?
I think people need to get over that. Hey, does LeBron James get calls that, I don't know, does Jarrett Jack doesn't? Like, it happens, man. Like, sorry. Like, the SARS get the calls. You know why? Because he's the GOAT. Michael Jordan used to tell the ref, hey, he fouled me. Oh, he fouled you, MJ? Yeah, he fouled me. And then
I didn't see it, Michael, but I believe you.
Yeah, I mean, stars get the call. Like, people need to get over it. Yeah, does it suck? Yeah, but that's Tom Brady, dog. Like, I'm sorry. It's not Daniel Jones.
Tom Brady. What do you expect me to do?
yeah. Shout out to Mike Evans.
That call
did the right thing, by the way. Mike Evans did the right
game,
thing.
guys.
No, it didn't. No, it didn't. Hey, Atlanta, score points earlier in the game. If you're relying on one play,
thank you.
There's plenty of plays along the game. Play better earlier. That's how you do it.
But
thank you.
The call still, and I'm not saying that Atlanta is going to win, but the reality is after the call, Atlanta had no shot to win. And the reality is they should have gotten back the ball after Tampa Bay's punt, and they didn't. Like, you have basically decided the game. I'm not saying Atlanta will win or should have won, but you ended the game earlier than a lot earlier than it should have. You know, I'm not even going to go on a rant. Tom Brady is Tom Brady, the best of them all. Giving the down calls.
Even Brady couldn't.
Atlanta deserves to lose every game because of those god awful uniforms. When they switch to more traditional, better uniforms, then they can start winning football games again in my eyes. But good for them. I hope they get.
I don't like those things, but I see
they're ugly. They're ugly. The ATL's too big. The numbers are trash. The helmets are nice. I like the helmets. The numbers are trash, and I don't like the gradient. The old school Atlanta Hawks, like, it starts off red and then goes down to black. I hate that. I hate it. It looks dumb.
Heard that.
They need to go back to the game.
And yeah.
Dirty Bird Jamal Anderson uniforms.
Just watch the clip again, and Brady definitely didn't. I'll just say this: I won't say he didn't get slammed. If you look at the end of the play, he kind of bounces a little bit, and that's probably what the ref was looking at. But this ref actually got interviewed, so he said, "What I had was the defender grab the quarterback while he was still in the pocket and unnecessarily threw him to the ground. That's what I was basing my decision based upon." Question again: that play was similar to the one with Tua. Is that something you have made a specific measure to try to watch out for, the takedowns on quarterbacks like that? The ref replied, no, not necessarily. So there's a lot of hearsay in this. But overall, I mean, it shouldn't have been called that aggressively. And I do agree, Jerm, definitely an overcorrection. You have to set the example. This is exactly why they pull Teddy out, with 3 minutes off the clock in the game. This is why they did this against Tom Brady, or against the Falcons, because they have to crack down on this type of stuff. But it is unfortunate when you can change the outcome of the game.
Well, guys, I won't keep you much longer because Monday Night Football is about to start. Quickly, Adam, who wins tonight and why? Keep it short, under a minute, because we got to get out of here.
Yeah, I'll keep it under 10 seconds. Chiefs, plain and simple. Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, they're going off this year, and Mahomes might win MVP. So the Raiders are very, very big disappointment. Chiefs by probably 14.
Ooh, same thing.
Hey, shout out to the God Neil working behind the scenes. I'm gonna go for the Raiders to win a close one. A surprisingly low-scoring game. I think I'm going to keep. I'm not going to call a score, but nobody's going to score over 24 points.
Well,
simple. Patrick Mahomes is 22-3 in his lifetime against the AFC West. It's going to be 23-3. Don't see the Raiders and this bad coaching staff changing much. We're going to get out of here. Jerm, plug yourself.
Hey, I am Jerm, one half of Stuff About Sports, presented by the Give Us a Shot Network. You can find all of us by hashtagging Stuff About Sports or hashtagging Give Us a Shot Network in your Googles. We're all over the place, and if you can't find us, you're not looking hard enough.
Same thing, Adam. Let's get out of here.
Yeah, man. Hey, appreciate you having me as always. Always here on this Just In. Jerm, it was nice seeing you, man. Definitely got to tell me the camera you're using. I don't do a podcast regularly, but I am a real estate agent. Buy and sell with AJL everywhere on social media. If you know somebody anywhere in the world, I work with a lot of agents. Let me know. And I'm always down to talk about sports. Justin, you're always dope, man. I super appreciate you.
And if you really want to see Adam talk about sports, you just come here every Monday night, 7 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, right here on YouTube. We are on Instagram. We are on Facebook. We are on Twitter. That's hashtag this just input in the hashtag because we are all tired of Matt Skellerman and that ripoff of a show. So for Adam, for Jerm, I am indeed Justin of hashtag this just in signing out. Go watch Monday Night Football and root for another Patrick Mahomes win. Good night.
Deuces.
Go Bills.
I know that after tonight, you don't have to look up at the stars. No, 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 no. I
Come take a
know
look at my
that
dream
tonight,
world.
Tonight, you don't have to look up at the stars.
Chat, if you wanna come get it, then come for it. I'm so clean, my kick's nice, I'm Chuck Norris. Minute made the beat bounce, had to jump on it. Run for it, run, Gump Forrest Gump like hollow pumps, you gotta jump. No trouble, no double, I got a stun. You don't have to look up at the stars, make one wish, you're looking at the